Welcome to Same Spit, Different Face TV. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And it's free. So don't forget to spit on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification.
Now, Spit Squad, let's talk about everything that's happened this week in hip hop and celebrity news. Now, Spit Squad, Deion Sanders beat cancer. He had his bladder removed today, and he had been away from the Colorado team for a while, and nobody knew what was going on. And obviously, when you somebody like Deion who's polarizing, you get a lot of hate and you get a lot of love. Well, you probably don't want to put that information out there prematurely because you'll have people preying on your downfall. And at moments where you're going through things like that, you only want the positive information flowing around you, and you want the blessings and the people who love and actually care for you. You want them standing in agreement with you. So I do understand why he didn't say it, but hey, he got his bladder out and now he is cancer free, and hopefully he can move back forward with his life and continue to, do what he been doing. And salute to Deion Sanders. Now I do, and I will say that I hope this bring some humility out of him, man. He's been through so much. And a lot of times you hear people saying, oh, man, you don't have to be humble. God bless you with this. You have to show it off and do this. But all through the Bible, God preaches and speaks about being humble and humility. Now, Spit Squad, Queso has had two people testify against him, one being his dad. And I think the dad thing is bad, but let me talk about the friend first. Now, the real problem I had with the friend is that the friend was with everything. The friend was moving around. The friend was stalking the person, allegedly. The friend was trying to move and shake and put himself in a position and act like he was with it. But as soon as he get caught and he facing life, now you want to get on the stand and tell everything else and try to put somebody else down for life when you was willing participant in everything. So just take your time in. I'm hearing that the friend had a life sentence in another case already. So what's the purpose? Now, his dad, man, I don't agree with his dad snitching, but it appears that his dad didn't have anything to do with this. But my thing is that his dad actually had him in the streets. He brought him up in the streets. He taught him the life. He taught him the G code. So if you teach your son all of this stuff, and now when you in that jam, now you want to turn everything over, and he talking about, oh, my kid's asking me when I'm gonna come home. I'm sick. I'm finding out I got kidney failure. Well, guess what? Die for your son so he can live, and hopefully he make good decisions. Now, Spit Squad, Sean Kingston haven't been sentenced yet, but Mama Kingston got sentenced. I think it was like 5 years. It was 3 or 5, but either way, she didn't get as much time as I thought she would get. And the reason why is because she has a history of committing fraud. She's been locked up for fraud before. If I'm not mistaken and I'm not misspeaking, she was locked up some of Sean Kingston's childhood for fraudulent behavior, right? So for her to bring her son into that and help contribute to her son's downfall is unfortunate to me. But at the end of the day, as a man, Sean Kingston got to stand on his own too. And he hasn't been sentenced yet, but to me, it feel like with him being a rapper and him also being a man, I feel like they will try to make an example out of him, especially since, he's made a lot of money over his career, and they probably won't feel any sympathy to him because they'll be like, yo, you made all this money and you dwindled it away, and now you frauding people when you had the world at your hands. So they may make an example out of him where they didn't make one out of his mama, but we got to wait and see how this go. But now, Spit Squad, Glorilla was arrested, and they basically said she had over an ounce of a weed in her house. Now, I don't agree with the way she got arrested, but my solution to the arrest would be, hey, the burglars must have left that there. I don't know where that came from. Maybe she admitted to it, maybe she didn't, but I would tell them it's the burglar. So what ended up happening was Glorilla was out of town. Somebody was burglarizing her house. Whoever her security was or whatever, they returned fire at them, and those people got up out of there. No harm, no foul, right? But when they call the police basically say, hey, we smell an odor in here. And because they smell an odor in there, they end up going and do a search and get like a search warrant and look through her house. And they end up finding like some weed inside of the closet. Now, to me, this is super petty, but you know what they were thinking. They smelled weed. They heard a shootout. They profiled the situation and they thought, oh, this must be some drug dealers because she living in a big house, or, it's a big house and somebody tried to rob it. So maybe these are some known drug dealers. We smell drugs. Maybe we'll get a big bust. Profiling at its best for sure. Now, Spit Squad, Elijah Arenas has a knee injury and he tore his meniscus, which means he'll probably be out like 6 to 8 months. months. But knowing who his dad is and knowing that his dad went through a knee injury, his dad may actually keep him out longer than that. His dad may actually try to keep him out a year and let him fully rehab himself. Now, I'm going to tell y'all a great story I know. I had a friend in college. He ended up tearing his meniscus, but he ended up coming back way better. He ended up coming back faster. His shot was better by the time he got back because the meniscus, obviously it's an important part of your knee, but it doesn't really stop anything major that you need to function. I can't explain it, but everybody I know who had a meniscus tear came back way better and their meniscus was stronger, and most of them didn't have any other injuries opposed to like people who hurt their ACL. So salute to Elijah Arenas, man. I believe that he's going to be the #1 pick in this draft, and I believe that, you know, he is destined for greatness, and this is just a small setback for a major comeback. Elijah Arenas, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Spit Squad, in the past, we've heard so much ownership talk from Charlamagne the God. So now for it to come out that he does not own the Black Effect podcast, he's just the founder. And what does that mean? It means that iHeartMedia owns the trademark. If Charlamagne decided to walk away from the Black Effect podcast right now, iHeartMedia would still own it. iHeartMedia has the final say. iHeartMedia has the legal rights to license it to whoever they want. And so Charlamagne has talked a lot of crap about Kanye West. Yo, go out and do it yourself. You don't need these big companies to back you. But Joe Budden has also had the conversation of, hey, if you want to really truly own something, put your own money up, because if you're not putting your own money up, you really don't own it. And now we find out that Charlamagne been blowing a lot of smoke. Now, that don't mean that he not helping a lot of black people. That don't mean that he didn't do something great by starting iHeartMedia. But when he walk away from it, who will really own it? If he passed today, would that company go to his kids that he started? Probably not. The even crazier part to me is that Charlamagne has been very critical of Joe Budden, saying that he gonna ruin his opportunities, saying that, you know, he need to play ball, especially when he was trying to negotiate with Spotify. Charlamagne was highly critical of Joe Budden and saying that he wasn't doing what was right. And now we look a few years later and Joe Budden is making almost $20 million a year off of his Joe Budden Network podcast and his Patreon and YouTube. And Charlamagne the God is basically in a position where he doesn't even own something that's called Black Effect Network. It's crazy. Now, Spit Squad, Hulk Hogan is dead at 71 years of age, and more than anybody celebrating his wrestling career, everything that he's done for the league, because actually I think he got banned from the WWE, so they can't celebrate him, if I'm not mistaken. But instead of everybody celebrating him, a lot of people, especially black people, are kicking his back in. And basically for the way that he talked about Kamala while she was on the trail and he was representing Trump, basically for when he told his daughter, you know, he don't want her dating the N-word with the hard ER unless it's an 8-foot N-word with the hard ER who play basketball or something. Basically, he's saying if he's a rich N-word, you can date him, but not. Now, the thing I'm thinking about is that while everybody kicking his back in, they pick and choose who back they want to kick in when that person died. We've seen other people die with checkered past or things that's happened in their life that may be sketchy, and everybody like, oh, why do you have to mention this when they dead? Why do you have to bring this up? But they doing the exact same thing to Hulk Hogan. Now, am I a Hulk Hogan fan? Absolutely not. He's not in my era. I watch wrestling a little bit, but I came up under The Rock and Stone Cold, and I'm not even huge fans of theirs as wrestlers. I just watched it every once in a while. Now, I'll lie. When I played PlayStation and that SmackDown wrestling came out, I definitely used to do that rock bottom all the time. So I'm kind of lying. I'm definitely a The Rock fan. That was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. But all this other stuff that's going on with Hulk Hogan, do people have to kick his back in? No. Now, Spit Squad, it's been said that Denzel Washington will play Reggie White in a new biopic. You don't know who Reggie White is? To me, he's most famous from the Green Bay Packers. I remember watching him play a couple of games, but I don't remember a whole lot about him. But I do know that he was a very dominant player And one thing that people really liked about him is that he led with his Christian faith, and he was a believer. So, and I believe that he carried himself as a Christian on and off the field. So that's something else that would be a good dynamic. And anybody who know anything about Denzel Washington, he has a huge Christian faith. And so I think this will be a great movie for him to play and be able to show his faith and dive deeper into his faith in the life of Reggie White. A lot of people are waiting for this movie, especially if you was born before the 80s. You definitely looking forward to this movie. Now, obviously, I wasn't born before the 80s, but this is a movie I would like to see because I remember always hearing people say how dominant he was, how good he was. And I used to be like, man, I don't really get it. But, you know, when you watch these movies, like one of the biopics I watched was the Kurt Warner biopic, and it showed how he was working as a grocery bagger at the store, and then he went from there and got a tryout, and then he made it to the Super Bowl. And Kurt Warner turned out to be one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks ever. So we got to give him his flowers on that. And I believe that after seeing this movie, we'll love it too. So salute to Reggie White, salute to Denzel Washington, one of the greatest actors. Now, Spit Squad, DJ Academic has been subpoenaed by Roc Nation in order to do a deposition. Now, if y'all don't remember, Tory Lanez ended up getting 10 years in jail for a crime that a lot of people don't believe he committed, and they believe that he was railroaded by Roc Nation. Well, Milagro, she was one of the bloggers who was basically going back and forth online saying that Tory Lanez didn't do this, didn't do that. And even though a lot of the other outlets was posting on it, they chose to single out her and speak on her. And one thing about it is Tory Lanez don't have a voice right now while he's in jail. So anybody who can speak out for him, speak up for him, or have a nuanced conversation about the situation, Roc Nation is basically trying to shut it down. Why? Because Megan Thee Stallion is a $1 billion entity, a $1 billion business, and she's been on fire as far as like appearance wise and clout wise ever since this situation happened. So Roc Nation can't have this backfire on them. Now, DJ Academic said he didn't barely talk to Milagro. He don't have any information. They don't have any text message they exchanged. So he's going to try to fight it with his lawyer. So basically he's not having to sit through 3-4 hours of a deposition and stuff like that. But basically, I feel like this is something to let academics know we not playing with you and we can get in touch with you. And I wouldn't be surprised if when he went to whatever Roc Nation building he going to, and they started to ask him these questions, maybe they even ask him some questions that are personal about him, trying to basically destroy his credibility. Or now, Spit Squad, we all knew this was coming. Diddy requests a new bond, and I said that he should have said this the first time. Remember when he asked for it and the judge said, oh, I can't give it to you because of your history of violence? And guess what? He didn't get found guilty for his history of violence. He didn't get prosecuted for his history of violence. The only thing that he got prosecuted for is the Mann Act, buying prostitutes. So he made the argument that, hey, I'm the only man in jail without bond for buying prostitutes. And when you look at the case law and look at it, normally the guy who buys the prostitutes don't get prosecuted a lot. Most times it's the prostitutes who get prosecuted the most. So when you look at this situation, they definitely trying to play with Diddy life. They definitely upset. The feds are definitely bitter. And obviously when Como got fired, whatever that lady name is who was over the case, the prosecutor for the feds, you knew that Diddy team was going to come back and try to look into it. And he should get bond. I don't care what y'all say about the domestic violence situation. Every time I speak on it, I don't have to say, oh, that was so horrible. That was this, that was that. That is not what he was charged for. He was charged and found guilty of the Mann Act, which is buying prostitution. And based on that, Diddy should be out of jail. And he's not going to get a lot of years. And a lot of y'all who was talking crazy about him And I ain't talking about the regular people. I'm talking about the celebrities who thought that he was going to jail for life and he was going to be done for. And they want, yeah, y'all got to see that man now. And I hope y'all keep that same energy. Now, Spit Squad, Ari Lennox, she back at it again. And I say again because she stay in some unnecessary controversy. And she stay trying to colorism bait. So she said that she didn't like the fact that Martin would go back and forth at Pam because Pam was a dark-skinned girl. But we got to remember, Pam and Martin used to go back and forth at each other. She used to do short jokes. She used to do big ear jokes. She even gave some broke jokes every once in a while. And at the core of everything, we started to notice that Martin and Pam actually had a love-hate relationship. And part of it would have been because Pam didn't like the fact that Martin got with Gina and then he took all of her time away from Gina. And then Martin didn't like the fact that Pam would kind of impose into the middle of their relationship, which no man will. So that's where it came from. But Martin and Pam actually had a pretty good relationship when we get past the surface of them roasting and talking about each other every once in a while. But Ari Lennox is always up to no good when it comes to stuff like this. And I just don't understand why whoever her PR or whoever is managing her wouldn't tell her, hey, a lot of these things you really don't have to speak on. And I think a lot of times, right, and I don't want to just make it a woman thing, but I'm talking about Ari Lennox. Sometimes when you see that women jump behind anything that another woman say, or if a man see that a man will jump behind anything that another man say, they'll say things that they won't necessarily believe just to try to get that attention and galvanize their audience. And with Ari Lennox, it always seems to back. Now, Spit Squad, Donald Trump has said he's thinking about pardoning Diddy. Now, we know that Diddy didn't get found guilty of the most egregious charges, and a lot of people think that Trump would have pardoned him anyway, but now he's only guilty of the Mann Act. And what does that mean? That means that now all the things that the court is doing to Diddy is unfair. And then when you look at all those souped up charges, they told us that he had ecstasy inside of the baby oil. They told us that he was drugging people. They told us that he was doing all of these things. And then once we get to court and once we start watching the case, we start figuring out that everything isn't what it seems. And we also find out that the women are not necessarily the victims. I want to say necessarily, but the women are co-conspirators. And what make them co-conspirators? They are the ones who calling the guys. They are the one who giving the guys money. Also, they keeping in touch with the guys even when Diddy isn't around. So it's a lot of different things that's going on that say, yo, Diddy participated, but Diddy wasn't the monster that everybody tried to make him see. And now you see everybody backtracking on their statements. When we talk about some of the other things that went on with Diddy, Diddy didn't get prosecuted for that, so we don't have to keep pulling that up. A lot of people believe that this was because he called Diageo racist, and this is something that put him into a position of where he just was in a lose-lose because the people wanted to humble him. Whoever y'all think those people are, that's who those people are. But because this is federal, Trump can take them back. Now, Spit Squad, Vince McMahon got into a bad car accident in his Bentley. He basically rear-ended a 2023 Benz, and it's being alleged that the debris from that accident went into the road in a third car crash. So two things are about to happen right here. One that's going to happen for sure is somebody is about to get paid. And then the second thing is that Vince McMahon gonna have a case he about to be fighting, because if I'm not mistaken, they charged him with reckless driving or something of that nature. It's been a wild week for Vince McMahon. Hulk Hogan just died. The racism and all of that stuff came up. Vince McMahon has also been extradited from WWE, but I think he did have some small role, or he bought back into a role or something like that. But his life has been in shambles, man, and all of the little allegations that was going on with him with the women, and that's one of the reasons I believe Brock Lesnar is not allowed to be around the WWE anymore, because of all of those allegations and things of that nature. But Vince McMahon, this is the irony that he got into a car accident because he been crashing out for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's been so much different stuff going on in his life. You got to remember that his wife has a job in the Trump administration, and let's be clear, it's a job that she is not qualified for. They ended up asking her some questions about education, and she said, I never even heard of that. How do you have a job doing something that you never heard of? Ridiculous. Even though I hope he have a speedy recovery. Now, Spit Squad, it's a video floating around of Stefan Diggs getting roughed up, and it's a guy named Chris Blake Griffin, and he alleged that Stefan Diggs been trying to, get some booty out of him, and he don't fly that way. And he said a lot of things about Stefan Diggs. But the biggest thing, he alleged that Stefan Diggs had jumped him with his brother at one time and took him to his apartment. Now, that video is floating around, and it was charges or something to that extent floating for that video, but we don't know what happened from that situation. But anyway, at some point, it appears that Chris Blake Griffin bumped into Stefan Diggs, and when he bumped into him, Stefan Diggs had on his chain, allegedly. And with Stefan Diggs having on that chain he took from him, allegedly, this guy went crazy. And him and another guy that he was with, man, they kind of beat on Stefan Diggs a little bit and took that chain up off him. Now, there's a couple of things that could be happening right here. It could be a situation where Stefan Diggs been trolling this guy behind the scenes and we don't know, or maybe he been playing that tough act. This guy did get down on, like I said, it's a video of it where he got ran down on after leaving Stefan Diggs' crib. Like, they all used to be friends at some point. But anyway, the bigger part to it is that this guy could possibly be using this as an opportunity to actually take something from Stefan Diggs, because Stefan Diggs had allegedly robbed him at one point. So it's all crazy, man. And when I say allegedly, it's because it was Stefan Diggs' brother who ran into him and not actually Stefan. Now, Spit Squad, Shannon Sharpe has officially been fired by ESPN. And when you look at this, man, you could see it coming. Now, one of my biggest things is that he settled the lawsuit, but I didn't like that he didn't put out a statement. That's one. And the second part is that the other law firm was allowed to put out a statement, and the statement said that it was a consensual but tumultuous relationship. And I think in this instance, Shannon Sharpe thought that saying nothing was more. Now, this don't mean he can't bounce back, because he's definitely still getting numbers over there at Club Shay Shay. He's still doing good on Nightcap. But if you notice, his kind of pizzazz to him has went down. He's not talking with that same pop in his voice in his conversation. And if y'all didn't know, Shannon Sharpe allegedly had to have a lawsuit settled allegedly while he was over at FS1 with somebody who worked behind the scenes. The lady said he was mean to her, or he pushed her, or something to that extent. And then not only that, he has another lawsuit coming from the lady that he used to go with named Michelle, who basically saying, hey, he sexually assaulted me. So this is finna be some tumultuous time for Shannon Sharpe. Now, in my personal opinion, once he paid this other little girl off, the older woman is like, yo, I spent this time with you. I was in a relationship with you. And now since it's over, I leave with nothing. And that's one of the weird things about dating a woman as a man. Once you leave and you level up, now she is in a position to say, well, what about me? Now, Spit Squad, Gilbert Arenas has been allegedly arrested for running an illegal gambling ring. Well, he's been arrested, but it's allegedly for running an illegal gambling ring. And it's being ran out of a house that's allegedly owned by him. Now, when we look at this situation, I swear I was watching Gilbert Arenas' show at one point, and when I looked at it, it seemed like he said something about running a gambling spot. I'm not lying. Like, this was probably like a week or two ago. It's so crazy. Or whenever it was, man, that clip is going to pop up online somewhere if I remember correctly. But it was just weird to hear him say that. Now, one thing we know is Gilbert Arenas is getting a lot of money because he's still being paid by the Washington Wizards, if I'm not mistaken, and he picked up that contract for the Orlando Magic. So, in my personal opinion, I don't believe he need the money. So, if this is happening allegedly like they saying, it can only be one thing, that's greed. Now, when you look at Gilbert Arenas' career, he's made so much money, and he making a lot of money now. He got endorsements from like Prize Picks, if I'm not mistaken, and then, you know, he run his show, Gilbert's Arena, like that's doing really well on YouTube. And if you run YouTube, you know how the money can look, especially if a person like me is on YouTube and don't have nearly the followers that he have. You can look at it and say, okay, I know he getting the bag. So it's just crazy that he would be in this position. Hopefully he is able to get a plea deal and don't get any real time. But one thing Gil told y'all is he will. Now, Spit Squad, Jay-Z alleged son, Ramir, he explains why he dropped the lawsuit. And he basically saying that, hey, it's a lot of court games that's being played. He's trying to allege that when someone is in a position of power that Jay-Z and Rock Nation is, they can influence the court, they can influence the people behind the scenes. Now, do I doubt that Jay-Z has Rock Nation has a lot of influence, and even Jay-Z, of course. Jay-Z is in partnership with the NFL. NFL benefits from him keeping a clean image, and he helped them clean up after the Kaepernick situation. So a lot of this stuff we looking at, we have to say that Jay-Z has a lot of friends in high places and a lot of power. Now, this guy who is his alleged son, he is looking at everything from the lens of Rock Nation is holding me back, Rock Nation this, Rock Nation that. Now, I won't say that Rock Nation is not doing anything, because over the years, especially in the last recent years, we've had a lot of people who are rich, people who are famous, people who are poor allege that Rock Nation has done things against them in their career. And a lot of people say where there's smoke, there's fire. But sometimes where there's smoke, there's just smoke. So I can't agree or disagree with this. What I will say is it's a DNA paternity test. And in most situations, people have to take these paternity tests. Now, the thing that y'all may not know is that the guy's mother was 16 at the time, allegedly, and Jay-Z was allegedly 27 at the time. Now, Spit Squad, Queso has been found guilty of first-degree M, of unaliving somebody, putting a body in the dirt, and it all happened because his father and his cousin got on the stand. The people that he thought was going to take up for him actually ended up turning on him. Now, when you look at this situation, Queso made a statement that said that basically Florida is racist. He said he had all white judges, he had all white juries, and all the black people that could be on the actual bench, they struck them down and didn't allow them to be there. Now, I do agree that it should be a jury of your peers, but what I don't agree with is that it's a strong possibility that he would have still gotten found guilty. Now, even while they were on the run, allegedly, a car popped up behind them, a police car, and they crashed that car. They got out and started allegedly running, and his cousin testified that he was the one in the car. Now, he made a call to his pops and told his pops to come pick him up from wherever he was at. His pops testified that he picked him up after what he did. His pops testified that he put something on Instagram that was incriminating. He told him to take it down. So as much as Queso want to say that the jury is racist, Queso had to take some blame for this situation. Now, let's just say if he didn't do this, him getting on the internet trolling about it, him being in that area calling his father to pick him up, all of this played a role in bad decision making. And if he did do it, we obviously know he played a role in bad decision making just by going to do it. Now, Spit Squad, Tory Lanez has a lot going on good for him. And after being stabbed 14 times, people believe he was stabbed 14 times because they were trying to stop the truth from coming out. We have a lot of activity in his case. So first thing we can talk about is the gun serial number. Now, one thing that they never did was the police officers never properly checked the gun serial number. Why not? Now, normally when a gun comes into a case, they check the serial number to see if it was stolen from somebody, to see who the actual owner is of it and stuff like that. And they didn't do anything like that when it comes to this Tory Lanez case. So that was like misconduct almost, or at least negligence. So that's one of the grounds for his appeal. And then the other thing that he has grounds for appeal on is that it was a couple of things that weren't handled right inside of the case outside of the gun. So the other thing we have to remember is that it was DNA on the gun, but Megan Thee Stallion's hand was never tested for DNA, and allegedly. And also Kelsey was not tested for DNA, or it was either gunpowder residue, allegedly. So when we look at this situation, Milagro Grams is going through a lot right now, and she's being harassed. And basically, it's a bully tactic, allegedly, in order to get her to stop talking. And if she stopped talking, the other podcasters and bloggers and big companies will stop talking, because they'll say, I don't want to get what she getting. Look how they shutting down her business. Look how they treating her. But it's unpopular, but free Tory Lanez. For more hip hop and celebrity updates, hit the subscribe button. Now, Spit Squad, in a change of events, Diddy has requested a new trial, or he wants an acquittal on the Mann Act. And the reason he's saying that is because basically things were brought into trial that shouldn't have been there. Well, what ends up happening is once you get, and this is how I'm looking at it, once you get found not guilty, a lot of the stuff that was presented to the jury is irrelevant. So now when the jury starts to look at this stuff, and obviously the judge will say, hey, don't think about that. Forget that. Strike that. But the jury can't forget what they heard. So it's a possibility that you may hear, like, let's just say if somebody's on trial for robbery and you're not supposed to bring in their childhood things they done. But you hear, yo, he used to commit robberies from when he was 15 to he's 17. And then the defense object because now he's 25 years old. And the judge says, okay, strike that from the records. And then he tell the jury, don't remember that. Take that out y'all memory. It's no way they not going to be able to remember that he used to do B&As before, right? I mean, B&Es. So with him doing breaking and entering, that's going to be bad on his record. The jury may convict him based off of, well, he did it from the time he was this age to this age. What would make him stop now? Maybe he got on hard times and he went back to what he knew. So that's one of the reasons. But did he say, and then another thing I want y'all to know that's important, the things he was found not guilty of, he can't be tried on anymore. So he would only be tried on the Mann Act. Now, for me, there's probably a lot of things that Diddy still want to do, so he won't allow them to put that on his jacket. Now, Spit Squad, Krishan Rock says she wants to transition into a man. She says she is transitioning into a man. Now, the reason why I say allegedly, because this is a post that she posted, but we don't know if she gonna drop that post later and be saying she never said that she was hacked. So I'm just gonna say allegedly. Now, the one thing people say a lot is that she gave off masculine energy anyway. A lot of people would say she act like a man, but when I look at this situation, man, I'm not gonna lie. I don't look at Krishan Rock the same way I look at a lot of different stuff, man. I see somebody who was thirsty for fame. I see somebody who really wanted to be something and make something of themselves in life. And I think if I had to put my personal opinion on this, I think that she feel like she ruined her reputation as a woman. And if she transitioned into a man, some of the things she do would be accepted better. The way she act would be accepted better. And maybe she can start her whole new image over and a whole new life as a whole new person. Now, I remember her speaking about why she ended up going on the Blueface reality show, like how she wanted to be famous. And the weirdest thing about that was she was already in college. She was already on a scholarship for track. She was already going to qualify for the Olympics. So in my personal opinion, she would have been famous anyway. But this just goes to show you how the decision you make tomorrow can affect today, and the decision you make today can affect forever. I don't even want to bash her, man. Hopefully she gets the help she needs. For more hip hop and celebrity updates, hit the subscribe button. Check out my original Chicago hood movie in the end screen, No Time to Play Fair. If you into sneakers, you a sneakerhead, you love seeing the new Jordans, Pumas, whatever it may be, subscribe to Kicking It with Fairplay 2333. If you trying to follow me on my basketball journey, my weightlifting and fitness journey, and also be inspired to get back on your fitness journey, subscribe to Fairplay, Flex, and Fadeaway. Also, any of these pages I just named, you can also find them on TikTok or Instagram.